Hi, I'm John George, a Senior Operations Specialist with Ministry of Natural Resources, Northwest Science and Information, and I'm the Project Manager of the Portage Creek Research Study that's been in place since 1991 to the present time. And it's a quantitative study to look at a cold water fish community and could it recover from overharvest, and then describe the life history of the population as it recovers, and then what happens to the population once it's recovered to carrying capacity, and what effects the environmental changes we're seeing or global warming has on a cold water community. And now we also want to look at what effects the community, the changes in the fish community of Black Bay, the perked community, the perch and the walleye, have on cold water fish, because we're seeing a decline in the number of little fish produced or surviving to maturity in this stream. So we want to see what effects the communities having out in the Black Bay, because they live in Black Bay for part of their life cycle. So we're monitoring that, and we're monitoring the life history characteristics of this population. And the neat thing about this population is a partnership between the North Shore Steelhead Association and M&R. So it's a partnership in science where they help collect the data and we do the analysis and we do the program design. So they're part of the whole process from beginning to end. So when we make management decisions, they're part of it. And when they're part of it, they're enthusiastic and helpful and all those good things when it comes to management.
There it is. Getting off this time.
So I'm keeping the fish in the water. We use rubber nets and we keep the fish in the water all the time, so it's always respirating. The first thing I always do is do the fin clip, as I said. And this year the fin clip we use is the right pectoral. So I clip that fin right off. So we got a mark on that fish. So even if the fish got away on me now, I have a mark for next year. So when that regenerates, it heals over, but it still shows a mark, and we'll able to determine that it was in the population the previous year. I take a scale sample from right about here, and as I said, the scales record the whole life history of that fish. It's like the rings on a tree. They put on little what's called circuli, or little rings, on a regular basis, and during the winter time, the growth slows down so the rings crisscross and come close together, and that's called an annular mark. And as I said, when they spawn, that annular mark, the calcium gets eroded back into the system to support the fish when it's fasting during the spawning run. So basically, by the erosion on the scale, we know if it's spawned or not. So I've taken a scale off that, so we know the whole life history of that fish now when we age these fish. And North Shore Environment Services out of Thunder Bay does all our prep and aging. I work with them, and we do all the aging together, and we do all the data analysis and all the calculations and all the write-ups on it. So M&R does all the write-up, the anglers catch the fish for us, like you just did. So I use a cloth tape, and basically we do a length to the fork of the tail. Put this right on the fork of the tail, and I measure the tip of the snout. And this fish, it's always fork length, and this fish is 61.3 centimeters in length. And I check to see if this fish has clips from previous years or tags from previous years. We tag them every year, and we use a different color tag every year, a different number series every year. So if somebody hands in a blue tag, and it's got the number series for Portage Creek, I know when it was caught and what year it was caught. So I'm going to apply a tag on this fish. The tag is for a number of different reasons. The reason we tag fish is not for part of the population estimate. We want to see stray rates of different rivers. Where these fish, when they go out and back out in Lake Superior after spawn, where do they go? And do they go up a foreign river? Or do they home well back to Portage Creek? And we also want to look at growth rates of individual fish. So I put a tag on this little female, and I get her back 4 or 5 years from now. I know how big she was now, and I know how big she is in 4 or 5 years. So I get to look at growth rates of individual fish for the age structure. The other thing as I said, I can look at stray rates and homing. What percent of these tags come back and spawn in subsequent years in Portage Creek? Do any of them go to other rivers? Do they go up other rivers and then come back out of those rivers and then go up their natural river? And the other thing is, from the number of tags I get back, I know what the harvest rate is in these populations. How many of these tags end up caught by anglers out in Lake Superior, so we get an idea of what the harvest rate is in a population. And if we were running a creel, a random creel or an angler survey, and we were checking for tags all year round, we could get a well-defined exploitation rate. Here it's just a kind of an ad hoc. We know a lot of the fish are being harvested, but we don't know what percent. But it gives us an idea of how many of these fish are being harvested, and then where they move to. And we have tag returns from all over Lake Superior, all the way down to Sault Ste. Marie, Wawa, along the South Shore in Michigan and Wisconsin and Minnesota. So they come from all over. So we know these fish utilize the whole lake in movement patterns. That's all from these tags. And we've been running this survey since 1991, so we've been running over 20 years. So we have a pretty good idea of how a wild population, what the population dynamics or what the population characteristics of a wild population in Lake Superior, and where they move to, and how susceptible they are to harvest and all those kind of things. What the growth rates on them, what the general life history of, as far as stream years, lake years, maturity, how long they potentially live for, how many times they're capable of spawning. And some of the fish in here are spawning up to 9 times in a row. So 9 successive years they spawn. I put the tag on right here. It's a little tag, and it has a number series on it. And it's kind of, like I said, we color code them every year. It's just sewed on. It's like when you go in and get stitches and you use a suture needle. It's the same thing. We just sew it right on the dorsal fin. That fish has a regular mark. Now there is about 20% tag loss, and that's why we don't use the tags for the population estimate. The clips are used for the population estimate. They're always tied really tight to the body.
Nothing gets stuck.
Yeah. I use about 5 or 6 half hitches. Trim it off. So now that fish is marked, it's clipped, and it's tagged. So now we're all set for the next fish. And we do that all spring, from the beginning of the run to the end of the run. And so we get a random sample of the total run every year. And we do the same thing every year, the same methodologies. And the anglers get to help us collect the fish. And that's a nice female, ready to go upstream and spawn. And she's got all the information that we need from her. So we just put her back in the water, let her respirate a while, and she takes off. And she's in perfect condition.
Beautiful.
Good one here. Perfect fish to get right off the bat.
Thanks.
Today we caught 82 centimeter steelhead, 82 centimeters of fork length, so it's probably in the neighborhood of 14 to 15 pounds. It's the largest steelhead we've seen in this population in 21 years. So it's kind of neat to see a fish that large. And the fact that we haven't been harvesting in this stream at all and allowing the natural population to stabilize itself and fluctuate according to environmental conditions is really neat. And to see these big old fish it's wonderful, because these trophy fish are very important to anglers, and they're also very important spawners because they probably have the genetics for fast growth, longevity, and all those good things, and they can pass on their genes to multiple females, which is, and the fact that this was a big male that spawned probably with multiple females is a good thing. It's a big dominant male in the population, so it's very important information. In 31 years of working in Thunder Bay, I have never seen a bigger steelhead than this, and I've seen literally thousands of steelhead from the North Shore. This is by far the biggest. Very unusual to see one that big.